Namaste, soul family, star family, subconscious community, and welcome to YouTubers from all over the world. Today is going to be part 5 in our planetary reception polarity aspects, series, right? Part 5. So what are we talking about today? Polar opposite of Venus, which was our last video. Mars, baby, we're talking about Mars. So we just did Venus in the last video. We did Mercury before that. Now we're doing Mars, baby, and then Jupiter after this. So, you know, this series is mainly about focusing on the planets. So we're going to get to the signs later and talk more about the signs. But this is just talking about the planets through the signs they're most commonly affiliated with, or the energies that they're you know, aspected in their best and their worst aspects, as far as their energies and the way that they are recepted. Hence the term planetary receptions, and it's a polarity aspect that we're talking about. So we're going to talk about the 2 polarity aspects today. We're talking about a total of 6 signs. So that's half the zodiac. So Mars has a large influence here. So we're going to check this out right now. We're going to start with talking about Mars just a little bit. So talking about Mars. So Mars is... Hold on a second. I don't know if you heard that. I just set my car alarm off on accident. Okay. We're all good now. Let's take the keys out of my pocket. There we go. Alright. So Mars. So the key word for Mars, when we're talking about Mars and what it represents here and how it affects us here, is we're talking about the word, one single word, which is energy. So Mars deals with energy, and we're going to talk about the signs Mars rules in a second. Mars deals with energy. So what else Mars deals with is passions, desires, motivations, and also it rules men and male genitalia, just as Venus rules and represents women and rules women's genitalia. Mars represents men, rules men, and also you know, the male genitalias as well, and all that. So Mars has a big influence here. So we're going to talk about the masculine and feminine rulerships of Mars. We're going to start there, and yeah, Mars is a very energetic planet. So let's try to maintain some energy throughout this video. So, starting with Aries, number 1, we're going to talk about the first Yang Mars rulership. So we're going to talk about the masculine side of Mars through rulership. So we're talking about Aries, the ram, of course. The first sign of the zodiac, right? The first celestial house. The first 30 degrees of the sky. 0 through 30 of the 360 degrees. So this is the area that Mars rules. Aries represents cardinal fire. So we're talking about, here's Aries right here. We're talking about initiating and creating new ways of how to see and feel. And also this is the exaltation of the sun, as we talked about in our sun video. So there's a lot of energy here. The key with Aries is energy, but the key with Mars is energy too. That's why this is Mars's masculine house. When the sun rolls in, you know, Mars lets the sun in with high honor. When Venus rolls in, Mars lets her in, and she's probably just going to stay in her room the whole time. And she's probably not going to be too social. You know, there's a different way that all the planets are recepted in each of the different signs. And so that's what we're slowly covering throughout this whole series. And so just talking about Aries and Mars in particular, it's the masculine side of Mars. So this is where Mars gets to express himself. He's very masculine and very, very energetic. So think of all the masculine traits of Mars, or think of all the traits of Mars played out through a masculine cardinal fire way. So initiating and creating new ways of how to see and feel about anything, a situation. But So Aries are very, very keen on seeing and feeling. That's what makes Aries so versatile of a sign. It's cardinal fire. And so here, this is where Mars gets to do whatever he wants, basically. We just had Mars in Aries, personally. We just, right now, I think Mars is in 3, maybe 4 degrees Taurus, transiting right now. So it just left Aries recently. It was a very energetic and passionate alignment, which personally I took advantage of, and I enjoyed the energies and rode some of the waves. So that Mars was thrown our way. So that's the masculine side of Mars as far as the rulership goes, and or the dignity, right? So we're talking about cardinal fire of Aries. So we're going to talk next about the feminine side of Mars, the rulership, which is Scorpio, right? So the 8th house, 8th celestial house, and we're talking about fixed water. So being fixated on your own way of feeling and dealing with the emotions. So this is very, 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 very deep. This is like the deepest part of the ocean, right? This is the deepest part of the galaxy, right? This is the deepest part of the zodiac. So it's very, very deep. The moon doesn't really dig it here. Pluto's chill here, but Pluto's very deep and transformative and far away, honestly. And, you know, people aren't even giving Pluto props these days for being a planet or anything. So, you know, I have some different understandings of what's going on in the galaxy later, you know, over there near where Pluto is. But for now, we're just talking about Mars and Scorpio being the feminine side of Mars. The feminine side of Mars, Mars' feminine side, Mars' feminine house. So very introverted and very focused on emotions and feelings. Deep emotions, deep feelings, deep desires, deep motivations, deep. This is what makes Scorpio the sex sign of the zodiac, right? This is introverted Mars, right? So everything that Mars represents, all of that warlike energy, Mars is considered the god of war, I believe, you know? So all that warlike energy, Scorpios fixate on that, and they become ultimately transformative. That's why Scorpio is the sign that has the most symbols of all the signs in the zodiac, because it has the scorpion and the eagle, and ultimately the phoenix rising up above through the ashes, being cast into flames and rising up through the ashes. The ultimate sign of transformation. So this is why Scorpio represents deep transformation. Pluto also rules here too, co-ruler. But so feminine side of Mars, right? So that's what gives Scorpio that immense power. Immense power. That's why you don't mess with a Scorpio, because you don't mess with Mars, the god of war. You don't mess with a Scorpio, man, or you're gonna get stung probably. I got this new little square chart here in the middle to kind of show the polarities, the polarity aspects. Okay, y'all. So that's it for the positive side of that polarity, that planetary reception polarity aspect right there. That's the positive side of Mars. We're going to get to the negative side that balances out the rulership. We're going to get to where Mars is in detriment. So this is no rocket science. This is just simple science because of what we've already covered, the idea of Mars and Venus being polar opposites, as Jupiter and Mercury are, right? So we got Mars and Venus. So anywhere that Venus rules is where Mars is in detriment, right? Just as same for Venus, right? So vice versa. So the two signs that we're talking about when it comes to Mars being in detriment, of course, are going to be Taurus and Libra, right? The feminine and masculine side of Venus. So Mars doesn't mess with this love type of energy, right, anyway. So if Venus represents love, then Mars represents war, right? So it's a very incompatible energy. It's a whole... Mars is super slowed down in Taurus, and Mars is super weakened in Libra. Ultimately debilitated in both placements. So it's you just have to understand the nature of the energies, because Taurus, representing fixed earth, represents being fixated on your own way of thinking and being practical. So this is a type of energy. This is a cold, dry type of energy, opposite of Mars, which is a hot, dry planet. This is the opposite of an environment where Mars would thrive. It's a very slow-moving sign. Taurus is probably the slowest moving energy of the entire zodiac, and by probably I mean definitely. The only other comparable sign would be Scorpio, because it's the polar opposite. And maybe some of the other fixed signs too. But I mean, come on, fixed Earth, man, slowest moving Taurus, the bull, right? So this is why Mars doesn't mess with this type of energy, because Mars messes with the deep waters and the high flames. It doesn't mess with the mountains, you know, and the land, basically, not the Earth. So those negative ions, that negative charge. So that's basically that as far as that goes. Libra, yeah, Mars just don't dig it there either, you know. I think that's going to be it for that first polarity aspect there. We're going to move on to the next one here, which is going to be the exaltation and the fall of Mars. So just like Venus, Mars is messing with both cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs of the zodiac. So all three types of modes or triplicities or whatever the heck you want to call them of all the signs, right? So so now we're going to get to also, you know, it covers three elements too. So Mars is messing with earth, water, and fire. So it's not messing with air, really, right? It falls in Libra, but that's the closest that Mars, that's, you know, not the best aspect at all, right? Or it doesn't fall in Libra, it's in detriment in Libra, right? So it's just not a strong placement at all. So that's the only connection Mars has with air for the most part, is just Libra being the partner sign to Aries, where Mars is at home. Then we're going to talk about where Mars, you know, would be in detriment. And we're going to finally get to the earth and the water. And so that's going to be cool. So let's, even though we already kind of got the earth and the water with the Scorpio Taurus thing, we're going to get to another one. So check this out. So we got the positive polarity of this aspect is the exaltation of Mars, right? And so we got the exaltation here in Capricorn, you can see, which is the cardinal earth sign associated with the 10th celestial house. So we're talking about the cardinal earth energy, initiating and creating basically new ways of how to think and be practical. So creating a blueprint for any given situation, depending on what planet you're talking about here. That's an aspect. With Mars, it's going to be the highest form, the heaven for Mars, right? The highest form of creating shapes and forms, right? Because Capricorn is creating the most, it represents creating the most stable, just creating in the most stable manner, basically, of all the signs, right? All the cardinal signs. It's the earth sign, right? So we're talking about Capricorn, and that's where Mars is in heaven, basically. So Mars is able to do the highest level, use the highest level of energy, and you know, essentially can wage war. But Mars is basically the boss, right, in Capricorn. Mars loves to be like the boss, because Saturn's the boss of Capricorn. But Mars loves to play the boss, play the honored guest whenever he's transiting through Capricorn. Mars loves to be there. That's the exaltation for Mars. So he's able to create structures and all sort of things, just kind of like Venus is able to do in Pisces when she's riding the waves. This is Mars's heaven, right? So this is where Mars likes to roll in. You know, he's got a chariot. You know, he's got his gang. He's rolling around, man. He's got whatever he needs, basically. Saturn can provide him. Saturn and Capricorn can provide him with a stable foundation to create, you know, infinite shapes and forms to his desire. And Mars dealing with so much energy, you know, this is incredible, right? Capricorn is a very powerful energy. So, and Mars exemplifies this when it's in exaltation in Capricorn. So now we're going to talk about the natural polar opposite to that, the negative aspect, and we're going to get to Cancer, right? So the polar opposite of Capricorn, the partner sign, if you reckon. We're going to get to Cancer here. Ooh. Yeah, man, Cancer. Cancer. Check it out. Look, it's Cancer. 6-9. Yeah, man. So, Cancer, being the polar opposite of Capricorn, represents the cardinal water sign of the zodiac, associated with the 4th house, the opposite of the 10th house, right? So we got the cardinal water, initiating and creating new ways of how to feel and deal with the emotion. And this is ruled by the moon, right? So this is naturally where Mars is, you know, the moon and Mars are not compatible at all, really, when it comes to signs and their rulerships and their receptions and their energies in general, right? Because the moon being more of a soft, feminine, and gentle energy, Mars being more of a hard, aggressive, masculine energy. So Mars falls in Cancer. It's too homey for him. It's too homey. The moon is you know, wants him to, like, you know, deal with his emotions and use his emotions and initiate and create new things with his emotions and all sorts of things. And Mars doesn't mess with that. When it comes to emotions, Mars only likes to fixate on his own emotions. That's why he rules Scorpio, right? Other than that, Mars doesn't dive into the waters at all. So that's why Mars doesn't mess with Cancer. So that's the fall of Mars. This is where Mars would be basically ultimately debilitated to the point where it just wouldn't work, potentially, really. This is a placement where Mars can your motivations, desires, passions, all sorts of things, willpower can be stifled and can be almost feel turned off, but really just hidden to a degree. Can become very heavy, definitely, depends on how you deal with it. But So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about that. So that's the difference between the detriment and the fall. You know, Mars is just working under suboptimum or completely not optimal conditions in Taurus and Libra, and he's just not working at all in Cancer. He's probably sleeping in a dream world. He's on the beach. He's stretched out on the beach or something, you know. I don't know. So you'd have to ask Mars. So I think that's about it for this video, man. Hope that was helpful for everyone trying to understand Mars out there. Maybe anyone new to you know, just astrology, or get into you know, someone who's new to understanding the signs and the idea of the 360-degree zodiac wheel. And you know, this is a channel for astro topics, so you know, I didn't name it astrology, right? I could have put astrology. I put astro topics because, you know, we're using all sorts of we're using astrology to approach all sorts of topics, really, is what it is. So hope this was an informative video for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. You know, soul family, subconscious community, star family. Appreciate you all tuning in. Everyone who tuned into this video. Bots, you know, anyone who's, you know, all the bots watching around the world. You know, I say what's up. Sure, that's, I don't know what exactly triggers y'all. You know, it's not really my concern, man. So what I'm saying is, you know, thanks for tuning into the video, guys. And this was a fun little episode. We're going to get to Jupiter next in the series. And, you know, Mars is feeling very passionately towards you. Just know that. So, and Mars energy is there for you to tap into regardless of your natal alignment, or your sun sign, or your birthday, or any of that stuff. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Namaste. Talk to you in the next video.